He's just a friend, she said, pouring almond milk into her cereal like we were discussing a Netflix password. If you can't handle that, it says more about you. I had just set down my mug, steam curled up between us like a ghost of the marriage we used to have. The room got quiet. No music, no morning news, just the rhythmic tapping of her spoon against ceramic. Our guest room. My dad laid every floorboard in there himself when he visited the summer after we got married, even signed the base of the closet frame with a Sharpie. For my boy's family, may this house always feel like home. I kept that wall unpainted. It felt sacred, untouched. Now apparently it was a free Airbnb for her ex. Derek's in town, she said again, like repetition made it reasonable. He doesn't want to pay for a hotel. And besides, we're adults, right? Adults. Right, the word tasted sour in my mouth, like it belonged to someone else. Someone still naive enough to think respect was the default in a relationship, not something you had to invoice for monthly like utilities. I'm not asking your permission, she added, leaning back against the counter. Just your maturity. There it was, the test, passive-aggressive, wrapped in faux progressiveness. Be the cool husband, the modern one who doesn't control his wife. God forbid you set boundaries without being called insecure. I nodded once. All right. That was it. One word. And yet, her whole posture shifted. Like she'd won something. Like she'd outmaneuvered me on some unspoken chessboard. She didn't see the twitch in my jaw or the way I glanced, not at her, but at the coffee pot. Because that was where it all started. When you stop looking at someone during decisions and start looking at inanimate objects instead, furniture, appliances, exit points. Oh, and babe, she added, walking away with her bowl. Thanks for being chill about this. It means a lot. Sure, chill, like dry ice. She didn't ask why I didn't protest, why I didn't raise my voice or slam a door. Probably chalked it up to her emotional intelligence and my learned helplessness. And maybe once upon a time, that's exactly what it was, but not anymore. I'd stopped reacting a long time ago, stopped playing defense and started studying patterns. How often she brought up Derek, how her phone screen always flipped face down when I entered a room, how she started showering before dinner instead of after, how the blouse she said made her feel empowered just happened to be the one he liked back in college. Most men don't need to catch their wives in bed with someone else to know. Sometimes it's subtler, like how she referred to his visit as a favor, as if hosting your ex-boyfriend for the night while your husband's name is still on the deed was an act of generosity, not a deliberate provocation. And yes, more than 90% of people listening right now never hit follow, but this kind of story, the kind you're hearing now, it only gets darker and realer. If you want us to keep pulling back the curtain, that little follow button does way more than you think. It fuels this. It keeps the truth coming. Back to the kitchen, I opened the fridge pretending to reach for the eggs. But what I was really doing was checking my reflection in the glass jar of pickles, making sure my face looked neutral, no smirk, no twitch, just calm, controlled, predictable. She wanted me to explode, wanted to call it jealousy, wanted to validate whatever fantasy she'd been rehearsing in the mirror about how controlling I am. But all she got was a nod, one clean, surgical nod. She disappeared into the bedroom to text him, no doubt. And I stood there in the silence, flipping on the stove, cracking 2 eggs like it was any other day. Because that's what you do in war. You pretend it's peacetime while you build the bunker. I already knew which sheets she'd change. Knew she'd light the lavender candle in the guest room like she always did when company came. Knew she'd accidentally wear something with less fabric than required. Knew she'd call it nostalgia when they laughed too loudly in the hallway. But I also knew one more thing. Derek wasn't just staying over. He was walking straight into a setup. And she'd already failed the test she thought she was giving me. He pulled into the driveway like he owned it. Headlights sweeping over the porch I stained with my own hands last fall, tires settling into the groove she used to call our little welcome mat. His car was cleaner than mine. Too clean. The kind of spotless that says, I don't have kids, debt or shame. He stepped out, holding a suitcase with one hand and a smug little bottle of red wine in the other. She rushed out before I could even rise from the couch, arms flung wide, like she was greeting a soldier back from war. Derek, she squealed. It wasn't the name. It was the pitch, high, girlish, nostalgic, the kind of voice she used to reserve for puppies or beach vacations, not for exes on our doorstep. He pulled her in, too close, too long, not a greeting hug, a body memory kind of hug, one where your hand grazes a familiar waist like it's a reflex. She laughed into his neck, then his eyes flicked toward me, a brief nod, like I was the doorman. "Hey, man," he said. Man, like I was a gym buddy or someone who fixed his brakes once. I said nothing, just took the wine from his hand like I was collecting a delivery, no label I recognized, something French and overpriced, probably selected to impress her palate, not mine. She still pretended to hate dry reds, but her browser history said otherwise. We sat down to dinner. Chicken piccata, her specialty, but only made on special occasions. Apparently, this counted. They picked up like no time had passed. Inside jokes, college stories, him referencing that stupid trip to Big Sur where they got lost in the woods. Her laughing too hard, the kind of laugh where she throws her head back and touches your arm without thinking. "So remember that motel with the ceiling mirror?" she said, mid-giggle, not even glancing at me. "God, yeah," Derek smirked, leaning back. "That was educational." She snorted into her wine. "We were such idiots." I cut into the chicken, ate in silence, watched, tallied every shared glance, every touch too long, every inside reference I'd never be part of, not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't meant to. She topped off his glass before mine. They didn't even notice. At one point, she got up to grab dessert and passed behind him, hand brushing his shoulder. He didn't flinch, didn't say excuse me, just sat there. At ease, comfortable in my house, the house with my name on the mortgage, my tools in the garage, my dog's ashes in the backyard. They finished the meal, I cleared the plates. She didn't offer to help. He offered to rinse, like that was a contribution. I nodded, watched him fumble with the faucet, made a mental note of the way he paused when she leaned over his shoulder, the way her perfume, my gift from Christmas 2 years ago, lingered in the air between them. "I'll show you the guest room," she said, drying her hands and smiling. That smile, the one she used to give me before intimacy, before the lies, before Derek started showing up in conversations, then texts, then late-night check-ins. "Cool if I shower?" he asked. She answered before I could, "Of course. Towels are already out." He slung his bag over his shoulder and followed her down the hall. Like it was nothing. Like this wasn't an open-air betrayal wrapped in civility. Their voices faded. A door creaked open. Shut, I stayed at the table, alone. The remains of the meal in front of me, like evidence at a crime scene. Then I reached under my chair, pulled out the small audio recorder I'd stuck beneath the wood slat earlier that afternoon, slid it in my pocket. No reaction. No sudden movement, just calm, focused, intent. Let them get comfortable. Let them believe I was neutered, that I was the fool who served wine to the man dismantling my marriage one memory at a time. Because the worst kind of vengeance doesn't come from rage. It comes from patience. The house was too quiet. That kind of silence that doesn't feel restful, but loaded, like the seconds before a fuse reaches the end. I lay there, fully dressed, on top of the covers, not because I thought I'd get up soon, but because I already knew I wouldn't be sleeping. Not that night, probably not the next either. At 12:47 a.m. I heard it, soft, almost delicate, bare feet on hardwood, a low creak in the hallway. She'd always complained about that board near the guest room, said we should get it fixed. I never did, because I wanted to hear it, like sonar in a marriage slowly going under. Then a whisper, muffled, female laughter, not the kind you give your friend from college, not the "oh, you're so silly" laugh. It was the breathy "I missed you" laugh, the kind she used to say for pillow talk. Then came the door click, final, sharp. I didn't move, just lay there, staring at the ceiling, tracing the grain in the drywall with my eyes like I was trying to find a pattern that would make it all make sense. But there was no pattern, only proof, and I already had plenty of that. I reached under the bed and slid out the black file box I kept tucked behind the linens, something she never bothered to touch. Inside was a folder with a single label, Exit Strategy. I'd started it months ago, not because I knew back then, but because I suspected. The kind of suspicion that doesn't scream, it hums. A low frequency you only notice when the noise dies down and the fake smiles run out. The folder was a quiet little time bomb. Hotel confirmations, 3 of them, in my name but for different cities, all booked in advance. A paper trail of plausible deniability. A new start already priced, paid, and waiting. Not because I wanted to run, but because I knew one day she'd try to flip the story, paint me as unstable, erratic, reactionary. I'd be damned if I didn't have receipts. Next came a series of photos. One of them showed her car parked outside the wine bar she claimed to hate. The same bar Derek had posted a selfie in 2 hours prior. Timestamped, GPS tagged. Hers was the silver Camry with the dent on the back bumper. She'd said she was out with coworkers. Sure, another was of the gym entrance. She didn't go to that gym, but Derek did. Caught them entering 5 minutes apart, exiting 23 minutes apart. Nothing criminal, but intimacy always hides in the margins. Then came the phone records. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just patterns. Late night FaceTime pings when she said she was unwinding with a book. Calls that stopped the moment I walked in the room. Deleted numbers that weren't deleted, just buried under WhatsApp backups. But that wasn't the crown jewel. The final envelope marked with red wax was still sealed. It wasn't for me. It was addressed to someone else. The name printed in my clean block handwriting, Lindsay Green, Derek's wife. I'd never met her, didn't need to, but I knew enough. Her Instagram was private, but her Pinterest wasn't. She liked mid-century furniture, ethical skincare, and posted quotes about rebuilding trust after betrayal. Her email had popped up once on a PTA fundraiser list that Derek shared on Facebook 5 years ago. Old data, still valid. The envelope contained everything. Not rage, not rumors, just facts. A neatly summarized PDF that laid out timelines, screenshots, and evidence. Enough for her to make informed decisions, just like I had. I didn't want to blow it all up. I didn't want a scene. I wanted something worse. Clarity. Because clarity ruins liars. It removes the safety net of ambiguity, takes away the excuses. You're overreacting and we're just friends and you're being insecure. Clarity is a mirror no one wants to look into when they've built their identity on fog. I closed the folder, slid it back into the box. In the distance, I heard the guest room bed creak. Once, twice, a low feminine laugh followed. Then silence. No moaning, no passionate affair soundtrack. Just the stillness that comes when people think they're safe, when they believe they've pulled the wool over someone's eyes. That's the beauty of silence. They think it means surrender. But me? I was just waiting for dawn. I woke early. Not because I'd slept, but because I didn't want to miss a second of what I'd orchestrated. The kitchen was still dim when I turned on the lights. No music, no news, just the hiss of the kettle, the low hum of the refrigerator, the quiet clinking of mugs as I set them down. 3 of them. I made the coffee strong. French press, the good kind. No shortcuts. I even warmed the mugs. Like a proper host, I laid out plates. Toast, eggs, sliced fruit, the kind of spread that says everything's normal. Welcome to my home. And then I waited. She came down first. Of course she did. Hair wild, face flushed in that very particular way. Robe cinched tight, but I knew the underneath wasn't for me. Morning, she mumbled, not quite meeting my eyes. She moved like someone pretending not to be nervous. Poured herself coffee without waiting for me to offer. The smell hit her. Ethiopian roast. Her favorite. She noticed, but said nothing. Smart, she probably felt it, that something was off. But not what. Then he appeared. Derek! Wearing the same shirt from last night. The kind of shirt men keep folded in a suitcase, not for sleep, but for next mornings they don't think they'll be seen in. His hair was damp, showered, groomed, trying to pass off calm, but his eyes betrayed him. He greeted me with that same half smile from the night before, not smug this time, just cautious. Like he wasn't sure which version of me he was getting, the quiet doormat or the husband with a hammer. Smells good, he said, sitting across from me. Breakfast is served, I replied evenly. She tried to smooth the moment, sat beside him, grabbed a fork, played the casual card like it was still in her hand. You didn't have to go all out, she said. I shrugged. It's not every day we have guests. A minute passed. Toast crunched, coffee sipped. The charade hung heavy in the air. And then, the doorbell. 3 chimes. Precise. Sharp. She blinked. Derek looked up, fork midair. I'll get it, I said, standing. No one objected. I opened the door slowly, not dramatically, just enough for the morning light to paint a silhouette behind me. She stepped inside with grace, not the hesitant kind, the practiced kind. Designer coat, tasteful jewelry, hair pulled back like she had something more important to do after this, because she probably did. In her left hand, a set of car keys. In her right, a duffel bag, his duffel bag. She walked past me like she already knew the layout, straight to the kitchen, her heels clicking across the hardwood like a countdown. She stopped at the end of the island. Derek stood, not like a man greeting a guest, but like a man seeing a ghost. "Morning, Derek," she said smoothly, placing the bag on the table like an offering. Dead silence. My wife stared at her, then at him, then back. "Who?" "His wife," the woman answered flatly, without looking at her. "Well, technically, for now." Derek's face collapsed. His spine tried to stay upright, but his mouth betrayed him. Lindsay." She turned her head slowly, finally locking eyes with my wife. "You didn't know?" she asked, voice low, almost tender. My wife shook her head, slowly, mouth slightly open, trying to form words that wouldn't come. "I figured as much," Lindsay said, setting her purse on the counter. "He said he was staying with an old friend. Thought I'd drop by and say good morning." Then she looked at me, calm, measured, a tiny nod. "Thanks for the coffee," she added. I nodded back. My wife opened her mouth to speak, but Lindsay cut her off with a look, not rude, just final. Derek didn't move. His eyes darted between us, then back to his bag, like maybe if he grabbed it fast enough this could still be salvaged, like he could run back to the life he'd just set fire to and pretend he hadn't been the one holding the match. "You left this at my place," Lindsay added. "Figured you'd want it before you followed her into whatever this is." No one said a word. And then, with a grace that cut like a scalpel, she turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. For 3 full seconds, the world didn't breathe. Then Derek reached for his bag, like a man trying to preserve the last shred of control. But control had already left the building, in heels, carrying truth. What are you doing here?" Derek's voice cracked like he'd just seen a ghost, and in a way, he had. The ghost of the life he thought he could juggle. Lindsay didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice. She tilted her head, one eyebrow just barely arched, just enough to let everyone know she wasn't surprised, just disappointed. "Heard you were staying with old friends," she said, casually adjusting the strap of her purse. Her voice wasn't cold, it was worse, controlled, the kind of tone people use when they've already cried their tears and now they're just here to deliver the eulogy. My wife blinked, lips parted. "You're married?" Derek turned to her, eyes wide, like she'd just yanked the rug out from under him by reacting at all. Look, it's not what you think," he stammered. "Really?" she asked, stepping back slightly. "Because it kind of looks like I just ate your scrambled eggs while your actual wife dropped off your travel bag. Feels exactly like what I think." He reached toward her, palm out, useless. "I was going to tell you. This wasn't the plan." "No kidding," she said, folding her arms. "Your plan involves sneaking into someone else's marriage like it was a timeshare. You want weekends, memories, meals, but no paperwork, no guilt. You're good at this, huh?" He looked like he wanted to melt into the tile, but it was my wife who truly collapsed in real time. Her face drained, hands gripping the edge of the counter like she needed an anchor. She glanced at me, hoping, I don't know, for denial, a reset button, some miracle where this moment was a prank. "She didn't know?" Lindsay asked, pointing at her with her chin. Then she looked at me. "You let this whole breakfast play out. That's impressive." I just gave a small nod. Nothing more. Let the weight of my silence do the speaking. Lindsay's gaze lingered on my wife now, studying her, not with hatred, but pity. The kind of pity you reserve for someone who doesn't even realize how low they've sunk until someone brings a mirror. "You really didn't know?" she asked again. My wife looked at her, then me, then back to Derek. "He said he was divorced, that it was finalized months ago." Lindsay let out the softest laugh, not amused, amazed. "Finalized? That's a new one. We renewed our lease 3 weeks ago. I helped him pick out the couch he was texting you from." Derek went pale, My wife turned to him, eyes narrowed. You told me, don't, he cut in. Too fast, too loud. Just don't twist this. I was trying to leave. I just didn't want to hurt anyone. Hurt anyone? Lindsay said, scoffing. You walked into a married couple's home, slept under their roof, ate their food, and you're worried about feelings now? He opened his mouth, closed it, rubbed the back of his neck like maybe pain would jog the right excuse loose. It was supposed to be simple, he muttered, almost to himself. I finally spoke, just once, quietly. It never is, not for cowards. He flinched at that, visibly. My wife looked at me now, full on, and I could see it. Regret. Not the tears kind, not yet, but the kind that sits in the chest like a cold coin, drops suddenly and deeply into your gut. She took a breath. I swear to God, I didn't know. I nodded once. That's the problem. Lindsay glanced at me again, then picked up her bag, her own, not his. The overnight one still sat on the counter like a carcass. You want it? She asked Derek flatly. He hesitated. She tossed it. It hit his chest with a dull thud. He caught it, barely. Then she walked out without saying goodbye. No look back, no theatrics, just quiet footsteps, and then the sound of the front door shutting with perfect, final precision. And just like that, what was once private was now a stage collapse. No curtains, no scripts, just broken lines, two ruined faces, and one man who had prepared for this moment like a surgeon preparing for a bloodless operation. They both stood there, stunned, like statues, but only one of us was still standing on purpose. I took a sip of coffee, still warm. You two want seconds? I asked, staring straight ahead. No one answered. Derek didn't say a word. He picked up the bag Lindsay had flung at him like it was radioactive. Shoulders tight, jaw locked, eyes darting, but never once meeting mine. The same man who arrived with swagger and wine now slunk out like a tenant who'd been evicted mid-shower. No goodbye, no explanation. Just the door opening, closing, and the faint hum of tires rolling out of a life he was never supposed to enter. The silence after was massive, not peaceful, hollow, like the aftermath of an explosion where the sound has stopped but the ringing hasn't. She stood by the kitchen island like a woman waking from anesthesia, dazed, disoriented. Her eyes flicked to me like she still didn't know which reality she was in, the one where she could gaslight me with ease, or the one where the mirror finally fought back. I didn't know, she whispered. I looked at her, but didn't really see her. Not the way I used to. Not the woman I married, just the woman who stood by while her ex played house in mine, who poured wine and shared inside jokes like I wasn't sitting 6 feet away, like betrayal was cute if it had a good backstory. She stepped toward me. I thought, he told me. I raised my hand, palm flat. Don't, I said. Quiet, flat, not angry. She froze like I'd slapped her, which tells you everything about the kind of words she's used to, loud ones. Drama, fire, but this wasn't fire. This was frostbite. She tried again. I need to explain. You don't need to do anything, I replied, walking past her. She followed. You invited her? She asked, voice rising now. The panic was setting in. She was losing the script. I stopped by the hallway mirror, straightened the collar of my shirt, looked at myself, not her. No, I said. I informed her. Same thing you did to me. She flinched, just slightly. That's different, she snapped. You did it to humiliate me. Did I? She opened her mouth, closed it. Realization began to bloom, slow, spreading like a stain, that I hadn't screamed, hadn't raged, hadn't thrown plates or begged for answers, because I didn't need anything from her anymore. I thought we could talk, she said after a pause. Figure it out. I walked toward the living room. She trailed me. I know how this looks, but we didn't do anything. I swear to God, he slept in the guest room. You can ask him. Why would I believe either of you? Because I'm telling you the truth now. I turned, just enough for her to see my eyes. The truth now is a puddle at my feet. You want applause for not drowning in it? She didn't answer. Later that evening, she cried. Not the performative kind, not the crocodile tears she used when the credit card bill came in or when I told her we weren't ready for a second dog. These were real, silent, ugly. She sat on the floor of the bedroom, knees up, sleeves wet. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, walked right past her. She sniffled. You really don't care? I stopped at the doorway. You want me to feel guilty, I said. You want to twist this into something mutual, but I'm not playing anymore. There's no team here, just you and me, and the crater you carved between us. But it didn't mean, stop, I cut in. She bit her lip, looking for something to hold on to. A scrap of narrative, a loophole, but there was nothing, just the ache of being unmasked in your own home. I turned off the light and left her sitting in the dark. I slept in the office that night. Correction, I rested, because sleep is for the safe, the innocent, the unburdened, and I was none of those anymore. But I was done pretending to care that she was crying. I'd spent years trying to protect her feelings, to be the reasonable one, the quiet husband, the easy out now. Now she could cry, and I could finally be free of the weight of giving a damn. She always liked to say perception was everything, image over impulse, optics over honesty. If it looks good, it is good, she told me once years ago when I asked why she smiled through gritted teeth at her friend's baby shower despite hating every woman in the room. Back then, I thought it was poise. Now I know it was strategy. So when the fallout hit, it didn't explode. It leaked. A photo here, a vague caption there. One of her friends, the term being generous, posted a boomerang from our front porch the day after Derek's little walk of shame. No tag, just a coffee cup and the caption, "Wild Night." The comments followed like blood in the water. Whose house is this? Wait, is that her house? Didn't she say she was married? By Tuesday, the whispers had grown teeth. One of her yoga group texts lit up with a screenshot, Lindsay's now viral post, a quiet, pointed image of Derek's overnight bag sitting on a kitchen counter. The caption? Just 2 words. Guest writes. That was it. No names, no accusations. But people knew. And once they knew, they recalibrated. Her phone buzzed less. The constant pings of validation, attention, faux concern, they all quieted down. People stopped tagging her in memes. One woman she used to brunch with weekly sent a single DM. Hey, is everything okay? Another, bolder, yikes. And the worst one of all, because of how casual it was. Wait, was that real? She didn't answer any of them. Instead, she shut down, pretended it was all beneath her, claimed she was detoxing from drama. But it's hard to detox when the poison is you. She stopped going to yoga, said her schedule was too busy. But I knew the truth. No one wanted to share a mat with the woman who let her ex crash in her husband's home. She canceled a hair appointment she'd been excited about for weeks, said she wanted to grow it out. Lies. Her stylist had unfollowed her. Even her sister didn't return calls. The same sister who once called me boring. Stable but safe, she'd said with a wink at the rehearsal dinner. Now, radio silence. And me? I was meeting with a real estate agent. Quietly. Professionally. I toured 2 townhomes across town. Modern, clean, near a good cafe, and far enough from the zip code that I'd never have to pass our driveway by accident. I didn't tell her. Why would I? We weren't sharing things anymore. We were coexisting in the debris. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. No accusations, no demands. Just distance. She noticed it in small ways. The way I stopped doing her laundry when I did mine. The way I didn't ask about her day. The way I changed my calendar password. Not to hide anything, just to reclaim it. I think the real shift for her came when I stopped correcting her stories in public. She always told exaggerated versions of things. Dates, conversations, outcomes. I used to lightly correct her, not to embarrass her, just to keep her honest. But not anymore. Now, I let her lie. Because what's one more? And then came the night I didn't come home. No message, no warning, just absence. She called twice. I didn't answer. When I walked in the next morning, she was on the couch, knees pulled up like a child waiting for punishment. Her eyes were rimmed red, her lips trembled like she wanted to start a fight but couldn't find the energy. You didn't tell me where you were. I looked at her. I didn't think you'd care. She said nothing, just curled into herself and stared out the window. The woman who once dominated every room now flinched at her own reflection. She wasn't used to silence being a sentence, but that's exactly what I'd handed her. Not closure, not forgiveness, just quiet. And in that quiet, she sat, alone. It happened on a Tuesday. Rain tapped against the windows like a metronome for the conversation she'd rehearsed 100 times in the mirror. She made dinner. A real one. Not takeout, not something frozen and rebranded as a quick bite, but roasted chicken, garlic green beans, mashed potatoes, the works. The kind of meal she only made when she needed leverage or absolution. She set the table for two, candles, cloth napkins, a single glass of wine poured for herself, which she didn't touch. I sat down wordlessly, pulling out the chair like I had 1,000 times before, but this time I didn't pretend. No thank you, no smells great, no nod of approval, just silence and silverware. She didn't eat, I did. Halfway through, she reached across the table, fingers grazing mine. I messed up, she said, not dramatically, just softly. But maybe we can fix this. I chewed, swallowed, set down my fork, then I slid the envelope toward her. White, thick, legal weight. Her hand hovered over it like she already knew what it held. She opened it slowly. A notarized agreement, cleanly worded, no ambiguity, no emotional ransom disguised as reconciliation. She keeps the house, I keep everything else. Retirement, investments, savings, car, company shares, even the dog crate in the garage I never threw out, mine. She blinked, reading the numbers twice, her voice cracked. You're serious? I nodded. I've been serious for a long time. You just thought silence meant patience. Tears welled but didn't fall. You're just gonna leave? I already left, I said. I'm just finalizing the logistics. She looked down at the contract again. You don't even want to talk about it. There's nothing left to say. Her hand trembled slightly. You're punishing me. No, I replied calmly. I'm giving you an out. That's more than you gave me. She leaned back in the chair, the illusion of dignity cracking under the weight of the truth. And if I don't sign this? I took a sip of water. Then I send everything to her lawyer. She froze, eyes wide. You wouldn't. Your name's in a few too many messages, I said, voice even. On devices you didn't realize auto backup to our shared cloud. She swallowed hard. Photos too, I added. Metadata can be annoying like that. Her mouth opened, closed. She didn't ask which messages, she didn't need to. She knew exactly what she'd written. The jokes, the late night promises, the complaints about me. The plans. You've had this planned? I smiled faintly. I had a folder called Exit Strategy. You saw the tip of it, not the whole iceberg. She looked at the paper again. I watched her eyes trace the clause where she forfeits any claim to future spousal support. The line that said, in simple terms, this is the cleanest exit you're going to get. I thought we were partners, she whispered. I nodded. You did. She laughed once, dry, bitter. You want to look like the bigger man. No, I said, finally standing. I want to walk away without dragging either of us through a courtroom we both know you wouldn't survive. She folded the agreement and stared at the envelope like it might change its contents if she wished hard enough. When do you need it back? Friday, I said, by noon. She nodded slowly, eyes distant. I walked to the sink, rinsed my plate, set it down gently. She didn't speak again. Not when I left the room, not when I turned off the light, not when the front door clicked behind me as I stepped into the night air, leaving her in the quiet of a house she no longer recognized. That was the deal on the table. Not vengeance, not forgiveness, just a future with her name crossed out, neatly. She signed late Thursday night. I was in the living room, sitting in my usual spot, not because I wanted to, but because muscle memory hadn't gotten the memo yet. I heard her coming before she entered, bare feet on tile, paper whispering in hand. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in a week, hair tied up carelessly, no makeup, no mask, just her, raw, empty. She stood in front of me, holding the agreement with both hands like it might tear if she let it go. Her signature was scrawled at the bottom, shaky, uneven. It looked like regret incarnate. I signed, she said softly, as if maybe the volume would soften the outcome. I didn't take it from her, just nodded. She placed the envelope on the coffee table, our coffee table, and backed away like she was afraid I'd say something that would finish what was left of her composure. But I didn't. There was nothing left to say. She lingered in the doorway. Are you staying tonight? No. Will you be back for your things? I already packed everything that matters. She blinked, once, twice, but no tears this time. Maybe she finally understood that tears were just noise to a man who'd learned the power of silence. The next morning, I left. No dramatics, no door slams, no suitcases dragging like a final act in a breakup montage. Just a single duffel bag, my laptop, and the deed transfer paperwork in my passenger seat. The house felt sterile on the way out, like a hotel room after checkout. Furniture still there, but no soul left in it. I passed the guest room on my way to the door. The lavender candle still sat on the windowsill, untouched since that night. The bed was made, tightly, perfectly, but I knew the scent of deceit was baked into those sheets forever. I didn't look back. I left the keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, the one we bought at that arts fair she insisted we attend, but spent the whole day scrolling through Derek's old photos on Facebook. She didn't come out to say goodbye. Good. Let her sit in it. Let her marinate in the echo of a man who stayed until he didn't. As I drove away, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I didn't answer, but I knew who it was. I checked voicemail later. Derek's voice. Hollow, pathetic. Hey man, look, I know things got out of hand. I'm just trying to get a hold of Lindsay. She's not answering. I think she blocked me. If you could just delete. He didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to hear it. She never went back to him. Not publicly, anyway. Her socials went dark. The couple selfies disappeared. Mutual friends purged. Her name? Quietly absent from every future post that mattered. They both lost more than each other. They lost her audience. I heard through the grapevine that Derek moved cities. Some new job, something lower profile. Apparently being the guy who played house in another man's marriage wasn't a great networking angle. His LinkedIn bio shrunk by half. As for her, she kept the house, the mortgage, the silence, a shell too big for one person. She posted a story once, months later, a cup of tea, a rainy window, a caption, still learning. No likes, no comments, just static. Somewhere in that hollow echo of the home we built, I imagine she still walks room to room looking for something to fix. But the truth is, I didn't leave her. She just let me go so slowly she never noticed I was gone. And by the time she tried to pull me back, she was signing paperwork. Alone. The cafe was nearly empty. Mid-morning hush, soft jazz playing over the speakers, the kind of place where people come to forget they have a phone. I sat by the window, letting the sun warm the back of my neck, coffee cooling in front of me as I watched strangers pass by outside. I wasn't waiting. Not really. But I noticed her the moment she walked in. Lindsay. She didn't hesitate, didn't scan the room or pretend to be unsure. She saw me. I saw her. That was it. She nodded once, polite, composed, and made her way over in heels that didn't announce themselves. She sat across from me like it had already been agreed upon. No permission needed, like two people who shared a secret don't need small talk to justify their presence. She looked good, not in the glossy, curated Instagram way, in the untouched by him way, like she'd finally gotten back to the version of herself that didn't revolve around damage control. Neither of us said anything for the first 10 seconds, maybe longer. Then she reached into her coat pocket and placed something on the table. A note, folded, thick cream paper, elegant in that minimal, deliberate way. I didn't move to open it. I just looked at her. He won't lie again? She said. To anyone. I didn't ask how she knew, whether it came from some final broken confession or just the brutal clarity that follows exile. I didn't need details. I wasn't here for postmortems. I finally unfolded the note, 2 words in clean handwriting. Thank you. Not dramatic, not overwritten, just the right size for the truth it carried. We sat there a while. She ordered nothing. I didn't refill my cup. The silence stretched, but not awkwardly. It had weight, like a song you don't sing along to because it already says everything better than you ever could. When you both survive the same fire, there's nothing left to prove. No moral scoreboard, no speeches, just presence. After a while she stood, smoothed her coat, tucked her hair behind one ear like she used to wear it in her profile photo, the one Derek cropped out after she left. I hope you're doing better, she said. I am, I replied. Hope you are too. I'm getting there, she nodded. One room at a time. She walked out without waiting for a goodbye. I watched her cross the street, her pace unhurried, like she wasn't running from anything anymore. And me? I sat there a little longer, folded the note again, slipped it into my jacket. Not because I needed it, but because it felt like proof, not of the pain, not of the betrayal, but of something rare, closure, not the kind you beg for, the kind you build, quietly, precisely, one move at a time until the story finishes itself, without screaming, without applause. The revenge had never been loud, but it had landed, and it would last.